There's a and so if you just go to that link, it should take you right there.
All right. Hey, Tracy, can you hear me? Tracy, you're somewhere up there, I know.
I can hear you.
All right. We shall go on the record then with proceeding number 25R-0280GPS in the matter of the proposed amendments to the rules regulating pipeline operators and gas pipeline safety for Code of Colorado Regulations 723-11. Administrative Law Judge Robert Garvey. Today is August 5th, 2025 at approximately 11:30 a.m. This proceeding comes on for a rulemaking. I will say something right at the start of this proceeding because I don't think it matters much, but I'll mention it anyway in case it comes up. One of the commentators, one of the people that wrote comments in this proceeding was the city of Aurora. I am also a relief judge for the city of Aurora. I don't know who wrote the comments. To my knowledge, I've never met the person who wrote the comments. And the comments were everything in the proposed rules looks good. And I had nothing to do with the proposed rules. So I don't think there should be any conflict or anything like that. But if for some reason that comes out, I just want to make that clear that I am also a part-time employee of the city of Aurora. So what we'll do here is I will make a few comments at the beginning. I might ask questions if you're making comments, if there's something that comes up that brings a question to my mind that I want to clarify. Maybe I don't understand it well enough what you're saying, or it brings up a question. Realize I might ask you questions. I'm not sure how many people want to talk. Sometimes I put a time limit on. At least to start with, I'm not going to put a time limit on. Please try and keep it to about 5 minutes. Nothing after that. After that. I don't know that you're being as effective as it could be. Do realize I have gone through the written comments. Please don't just read your written comments again. We have those already. We don't need them rewritten, and my court reporter doesn't want to type all that down again if we have it. Please also remember to, if you could, state your name. I think everyone has their name on their little box here, but it probably wouldn't hurt to spell it again just for my court reporter. As you notice, I am trying to talk slow and I'm trying to talk clearly, and so she can hear and take all that down. I see one hand up. I don't know if that is a hand for a question or just wanted to comment. Ms. Oliver?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, sorry, I missed the first minute of the meeting. Are we doing public comments, right now?
In a minute. In a
All
minute. I'm just starting right now, and so going over.
All right, I just didn't want to miss my opportunity, sorry.
No, you're fine. You haven't missed it yet, for sure. Let's see. So I think that's it. If you want to comment, raise your hand like Ms. Oliver has there. I will call on you. And like I say, if you please don't read your written comments, and I don't need those again. If you have something else, if you want to summarize what you have in a written comment, that's great. That's fine. And I think that's it. So if you would like to make a comment, if you would use the hand raising. Is that emoji? Is that counts as emoji or not? I think it does. And I'll just start. And I'm gonna just go to the left there, top of my screen. And Ms. Oliver, there you are. You're the first one to put your hand up, and it paid off.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to have us make comments on behalf of Moms Clean Air Force Colorado chapter. I want to first begin by acknowledging the 574 tribal nations of the United States, and that Colorado is the ancestral lands of 48 tribal nations. My name is Shayna Oliver. I'm a field organizer with Moms Clean Air Force Eco Madres in Colorado. Our national organization represents more than 1.5 million moms, dads, and caregivers united for our children's right to a safe and healthy environment, including 43,079 members here in Colorado. Importantly, I'm a mom of 4, and we are descendants of the genocide known as the Indian Removal Act, known to the Diné as the Long Walk of the Navajo. Today, we live in Denver Metro, faced with many clean air and safety challenges like the encroachment of oil and gas, along with aging infrastructure, including buried pipelines. According to the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, in the past 10 years, operators in Colorado have reported 56 pipeline incidences that cost over $16 million in property damage and emergency response costs. This doesn't account for health costs and missed economic opportunities caused by preventable accidents that expose our communities to harmful pollution. For example, the impacts of volatile organic compounds and hazardous air pollutants like benzene can worsen asthma in children, increase the risk of hospitalization for stroke, lung cancer, heart failure, and cause cancer. As a parent with asthma and raising a child with asthma, the importance of tackling a preventable and predictable problem gives us the leverage to lead and show other communities how to adapt in a healthy way by utilizing the best available technology and practices that can save lives today and invest in our communities for the long term. Moms Clean Air Force Eco Madres Colorado strongly urges the Public Utilities Commission to adopt strong, comprehensive standards for advanced leak detection and rapid repair times for gas pipelines to improve safety and reduce climate pollution. We also support stronger technology-specific standards that are specific to distribution, gathering, and transmission pipelines that prioritize repairs based on both safety and environmental impact. Stronger standards won't just cut climate pollution, they'll protect the health of our children and future generations. I thank you for my time, and I will lower my hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. I appreciate the comments you get, and I will take those into mind. And I will apologize again. If I mispronounce your name, I apologize for that in advance. But Mr. Willard, I see you are next there, at least on my screen.
Good day, and thank you for allowing public comment. My name is Randy Willard. I'm a resident of Southeast Aurora. I'm concerned that the industry continues to push to loosen our standards in a place that already exceeds ozone guidelines most days in the summer. I'm also very concerned about the climate impacts of methane releases and leaks, which can and do occur in pipelines. Colorado has over 80,000 miles of methane pipelines, and the public deserves to have the following rules in place: comprehensive leak detection standards, a requirement for rapid repair times based on both safety and environmental considerations, broad application of these aforementioned items on all gas pipelines, including those in rural areas. Pipelines should be monitored continuously, just like computer networks, to detect anomalies and to address them. All areas where pipelines run should be considered valuable and worth protecting. By implementing these rules and enforcing them, we will begin to eliminate a major source of methane emissions in our state and therefore begin to address the pollution and ozone issues in our state. The cost of these rules should be 100% borne by the industry, because without the industry, we wouldn't have these pipelines. Thank you for the time.
All right, Mr. Willard, thank you very much for your comments there. And this is going to be the first name that I'm going to mispronounce. Nina Gu? Am I saying that?
Hi, it's actually Nini.
Nini. Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning. I guess it's still morning. My name is Nini Gu, and I am the Senior Regulatory and Legislative Manager for Environmental Defense Fund, or EDF, based in Denver, Colorado. EDF is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that represents over 3 million members worldwide, including 90,000 here in Colorado. And it is dedicated to protecting human health and the environment by effectively applying science, economics, and the law. For over 30 years, EDF's office in Colorado has worked to improve air quality and defend a livable climate in this state. I'm here today with my colleague Erin Murphy from EDF's legal regulatory team. EDF strongly supports the adoption of comprehensive advanced leak detection and repair standards for natural gas pipelines by the Public Utilities Commission. Robust leak management standards are crucial to protecting communities and the environment, and Colorado can demonstrate national leadership in pipeline oversight by accelerating the implementation of cost-effective and commercially available technologies to find and fix leaks. Natural gas pipeline leaks present safety, environmental, and health risks to nearby communities. The main component in natural gas is methane, a potent climate pollutant with over 80 times the 20-year warming power of carbon dioxide. An analysis by EDF submitted to the Commission estimates that Colorado's natural gas pipelines emit up to 76,000 metric tons of methane annually. Gathering pipelines transport unprocessed gas, which contains additional air pollutants such as volatile organic compounds that contribute to ozone formation, and benzene, a no human carcinogenic. Reducing leakage from gas pipelines can reduce emissions of these pollutants. The proposed rule is a major step forward beyond the federal baseline standards, which have not been significantly updated in decades. However, there is room for improvement to ensure that operators use the most effective technologies with the greatest benefit to ratepayers and communities. EDF recommends the following improvements to the Commission's proposal. First, the leak detection technology standard should be differentiated based on pipeline type and survey purpose. This means operators deploy technologies most effective for the leak profiles of different pipeline types. For screening surveys on gathering and transmission pipelines, the technology should be able to measure 3 kilograms per hour flow rate with 90% probability of detection. For screening surveys on distribution pipelines, technologies should be able to measure a 10 standard cubic feet per hour flow rate with 90% probability of detection. And for leak identification, which is the follow-up an operator that needs to conduct to confirm the precise location of a leak based on screening surveys, the detection standard should be 5 parts per million. Second, EDF supports the proposed leak survey frequency standards for transmission and gathering pipelines. For distribution pipelines, operators should layer super emitter surveys on an annual basis with standard leak surveys at the Commission.
Ms. Gu, I'm going to ask you to slow down a little bit, please.
Oh, sorry.
And go back over what you just said.
How far back do you want me to go?
The paragraph you started.
Okay, so the second recommendation is that EDF supports the proposed leak survey frequency standards for transmission and gathering pipelines. For distribution pipelines, operators should layer super emitter surveys on an annual basis with standard leak surveys at the Commission's proposed frequency. Third, Leak detection standards should apply to all intrastate gas distribution, transmission, and gathering pipelines, including Type R gathering lines. And lastly, to reduce the economic waste and emissions, the Commission should require operators to prevent or minimize natural gas emissions during operational releases associated with leak repairs using methods detailed in EDF's comments. For more details of these recommendations, please look at our written comments that we have already submitted. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and my colleague Erin Murphy is available to answer any questions. And if I went over anything too quickly, please let me know, and I'm happy to repeat. Thank you.
No, that's fine. I did see your written comments, which were quite detailed, and so I think probably it's covered there. But thank you very much, Mr. Willard. Mr. Willard, I'm going to tell you, you still have your hand up, which I'm going to assume is because you forgot to take it. Okay, that tells me right there. All right, Ms. Robinson. Which I like your picture, by the way, just as an aside. And you're probably trying to talk and you're still muted.
Sorry about that. I'm from Chicago, and I always knew I was going to be a cowgirl.
Well, are you from the city?
Yeah.
Really? I grew up in Elmhurst.
So here we are in Colorado. I'm Leslie Robinson. I've lived in Rifle since 1975. So I've experienced the oil shale, the end of the uranium boom, and now I've gone through oil and gas booms and busts. I'm chair of the Grand Valley Citizens Alliance, and we've been involved with oil and gas issues since 1997 in Western Garfield County, in particular the Battlement Mesa fight back in 2008. We're part of the Western Colorado Alliance in Grand Junction. I would like to encourage the PUC to oversee Class R pipelines in the rural areas such as Western Garfield County, where we have 12,000 wells, mostly older stripper wells, since the heydays of 10 to 15 years ago. We also have hundreds of miles of upstream pipelines for the natural gas industry. I have joined Andrew Klooster from Earthworks looking for methane leaks with his flare camera, both from the county roads overlooking pads and other facilities. We have found methane leaks in pipelines, smokestacks, and from produced water recycling facilities. It is awfully confusing what agency oversees what. So all the more reason for the PUC to step up and manage upstream Class R pipelines. If not you, who? Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak before you today.
All right, Ms. Robinson, thank you very much. I appreciate those comments. All right, Miss, and I might mess up this name, Shadle?
That's correct.
Hey. I get them right occasionally.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Suzanne Shadle. I am a senior associate at RMI, a nonprofit organization scaling transformative change in the global energy system. I am based in Denver, and I focus on actionable, cost-effective solutions that reduce emissions in the oil and gas sector. Under House Bill 25R-0280, the Commission must adopt comprehensive leak detection and repair standards using advanced technologies by November 1st, 2025. The bill also establishes that gas pipeline leaks, quote, pose safety risks and environmental harm due to methane emissions that contribute to near-term climate change and other hydrocarbon emissions that pose a threat to public health and safety, end quote. Methane is a potent, short-lived climate pollutant, approximately 80 times more warming than carbon dioxide over 20 years, and is the major component of natural gas. Reducing methane is low-hanging fruit for Colorado to meet its greenhouse gas targets, and this rule presents a critical opportunity to do so. I respectfully ask that you consider the inclusion of remote sensing technologies such as aerial and satellite methods within the LDAR toolkit proposed. These technologies are already in use by operators and CDPHE and offer a cost-effective way to identify and address high emission leaks quickly and at scale. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for your careful consideration of all perspectives.
Ms. Shadle, thank you very much for those comments. Appreciate that very much. All right, next, Lauren Swain.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm the coordinator for Physicians for Social Responsibility of Colorado. I'm not a physician, I'm their coordinator and their advocate. And I have been following the pipeline safety issue for some time, especially in the wake of the issuance of the audit of the gas pipeline safety program in Colorado in May of 2023. It's a fascinating report. I hope everybody reads it thoroughly, and I refer everybody to page 61, where it is described how the fines are frequently waived by the regulator and are not implemented fully by the regulator, and that there's essentially a chronic problem with a lack of fines and a lack of and reduced fines that have led arguably to some pretty serious traumatic situations. And on page 61, you can see the programs in 2015 to 2017 inspection notes for Excel identified ongoing noncompliance. The program was issued a warning. The program issued a warning to Excel in 2017, and then later the operator had a major explosion in the same area where they had received those warnings. So they weren't too arguably worried about the warnings. It wasn't enough to get them to do what was necessary to avoid this explosion due to a gas leak, resulting in $151,000 in property damage and surrounding homes being evacuated. Since then, the program has documented that Xcel Energy has had a total of 1,247 instances of noncompliance throughout the state, leading up to that's 1,247 instances of noncompliance throughout the state, leading up to May of 2023. So I certainly support leak detection and repair, rigorous rules about that, but if they are not enforced, how do we get ahead? There needs to be a program of enforcement and accountability within the regulator themselves, or the best rules in the world won't matter. So, and if it is an opportunity to ask a question, I'd like to know, since that audit was published, what has been done to improve enforcement, if anything?
I don't know offhand. I can't tell you offhand. I've just gotten this case. I'm a judge that does everything that we do. So in the decision that we have, and we'll get further into that, and I will certainly. I will tell you, you are talking to someone who firmly believes in enforcement and doing that. So I'm with you on that, but I can't. I don't. I can make something up, but it would not. I know what I was talking about. So
No need. There are. So this report, everybody should be familiar with the audits, the state auditors report on the gas pipeline safety program issued in May of 2023. It includes recommendations, and I just think that all of us should know, and it should be, it should be followed and should be implemented, and we should all be aware of how far, what has been done to address these extremely serious chronic problems of enforcement by our regulators in the state.
And that information, if I believe correctly, is on our website as well.
Okay.
I believe so.
Go on, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Oh, Ms. Vasquez, there you go. You already know you're going to be next, huh?
Well, I can see the order, Judge Garvey. So
You don't know. They've been switching around all of a sudden. You never know. I'm tricky that way. But okay,
well, I'd
since
be
you've
more than
decided-
glad. I'd be more than glad to defer to somebody else if you'd like to call on somebody else first.
I see no other hand up, so you shall be it.
Okay. Okay. And I also was raised in the Chicago area, something we have in
Where from?
common.
Where from?
Barrington.
Okay, yeah, sure. You're further out west than us in Elmhurst. But
Well, I was born in the city, but my
Okay.
folks moved out eventually after having 4 kids. They needed a little elbow room. So sorry for the private diversion here. My name is Barbara Vasquez, Vasquez, as you can see written. I'm a retired engineer and scientist and a resident of Jackson County since 2005. During my 20 years here in Colorado, I've served for 7 years as a member of the Northwest Colorado BLM Resource Advisory Council, learning a lot about public lands management and the issues that they deal with, and the challenges here in Colorado, particularly with oil and gas development. And for 4 years, representing Northwest Colorado on the Colorado Transportation Commission. I've been the environmental rep to the North Platte Basin Roundtable since 2006, and I'm currently representing our basin on CWCB. So I'm not retired on the couch eating chocolate bonbons and watching daytime TV. I come before you today as a member of Western Colorado Alliance, a grassroots democratic organization with over 1,000 members who live, work, and play in communities surrounded by public lands and who are directly impacted by their management. And together we work to ensure landowner rights, public safety, and environmental health, and to ensure that they're a priority in management decisions. And I also serve on the Produced Water Commission, which has a small role in advising ECMC on things including produced water pipelines. So Western Colorado Alliance truly applauds Colorado's leadership in mitigating methane and VOC emissions and improving public safety and environmental health by taking on the task of generating these pipeline safety rules. But we'd like to offer some comments and suggestions to strengthen and improve those rules. You have received written comments, but I'd like to highlight a few if that's okay. So Western Colorado supports the general approach the PUC has taken by aligning the draft rules with the final but unapproved PHMSA rules. We also appreciate the rules' recognition that methane leaks not only threat to public safety, but are also a threat to climate and to Colorado's possibility of reaching its climate goals as articulated in the Greenhouse Gas Roadmap 2.0.1. In addition, by addressing methane leaks, the rules address the public health risks of VOCs that are entrained in the methane. So here are a few areas we'd really like to see the PUC make some improvements. First off, you've heard from others today, the Type R gas gathering lines should be included in the inspection and repair requirements. Western Colorado Alliance has been concerned about the exemption for rural gas gathering pipelines for years, and we're quite pleased to see that the state adopted regulations that require reporting of Type R pipeline leaks in the former proceedings 25R-0481GPS. After that exciting precedent, we were truly disheartened to learn that the advanced leak detection and repair requirements are not being proposed to apply to rural Type R gathering lines. Failure to address the Type R pipelines unfairly discriminates against the many rural Colorado residents who live across the state near the industry's approximately 8,000 miles of Type R gathering lines. We'd all like to assess our own risk from Type R lines and hope the PUC will soon publish the long-awaited pipeline map, because if you can't determine where the risk is, you can't determine your own risk. WCA supports the comments by both EDF and Larimer County on this issue, which are also consistent with another report I'd like to add to your reading list, Judge Garvey, and that is the December 2024 pipeline report for the state of Colorado, Considerations for Pipeline Safety. That report identified the regulatory gap for Type R pipelines on page 43 and recommended implementation of leak detection for Type R pipelines on page 63. Type R pipelines must be brought into these PUC regulations. Rural residents are no less deserving of pipeline safety, as well as environmental and public health protections, than town and city dwellers in the state of Colorado. I'd like to add that Citizens for Healthy Community is not here today because of illness, and I've been asked to mention that they also support the incorporation of Type R pipelines into these regulations. Another topic is enforcement, which you heard from Ms. Swain. The proposed PUC rules fail to provide enforcement mechanisms that are meaningful. Rules without effective and timely meaningful enforcement really are no rules at all. WCA supports the proposal by Larimer County that the PUC explicitly require an advanced leak detection plan and to require that the plans are approved by PUC SPS director prior to being implemented. We also support the comments by Green Latinos that require automatic penalties for violations of inspection and repair deadlines based on the grade of the leak. WCA was alarmed by the state audit report that was referred to by Ms. Swain that stated that Pipeline Safety Program did not issue any written compliance actions for at least 94% of over 5,000 instances of concerns and unsatisfactory compliance that the program documented for operators between 2017 and 2022. Failure to inspect pipelines or fix leaks on time or health and safety violations should have clear triggers for consistent enforcement and penalties. Otherwise, the rules are meaningless. We also endorse faster repair times that Larimer County's comments have addressed. And finally, the effective date of the rules should remain January 2027. WCA opposes efforts by public service to delay the effective date. These rules have been under consideration at both the federal and state level for the past 4 years or more. Most leading industries have already adopted advanced leak detection and technologies, and you might ask why? Why? Because they're inexpensive, they're effective, and it's in the company's commercial best interest to get all of the natural gas that is collected to its point of sale. Industry has had time to prepare for these rules, and any delay in implementation is unwarranted and would unjustifiably put safety at additional risk. So I want to thank you for your time to allow me to probably go a little past the 4 or 5 minutes, and appreciate your attention to these concerns and recommendations. We look forward to continuing to work with PUC to finalize these pipeline safety rules. So thank you for your time, sir.
No, thank you. Thank you for the comments. Yeah, don't worry about going over. We don't have a whole big list of people that I see with hands up, so I'm not gonna count that. I will mention for some. I will mention for some of the commentators just real quickly. Of what you mentioned, always just realize that I'm limited in what I can do statutorily, and so if I can do and some things you may want or suggest or comment on statutorily we can't get to, but that we'll take a look at that and see. And I'm not seeing any hands up. I'm seeing some faces. Oh, that's a literal hand up. Okay, and so Mr. Ships, your hand literally went up. Mr. Ships, I'm gonna ask you if you can get another few more plaques with different things to put up back on your wall for me. You got a lot there. You can see, I got like 3. You can see back of me. I feel I'm outnumbered. All right, so you go right ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tom Ships. I'm an attorney representing the Southern Ute Indian Tribe and Red Cedar Gathering Company. We previously submitted written comments, Judge. that essentially are jurisdictional concerns based upon the tribe's sovereignty and the complicated nature of the Southern Ute Indian Reservation. And I don't intend on and to explore the detailed nature of our jurisdictional argument. I think we've presented it in our written comments, but I did want to be available in case Your Honor had any questions about the position, and would be glad to provide clarification if needed.
Okay, I will say one thing, Mr. Ships. When I was in law school, the best class I took was Indian law. I found that to be singly the most interesting puzzle piece type legal class ever, and I loved that. I would love to get into that whole thing when we have the intersection of federal jurisdiction, tribal jurisdiction, state jurisdiction, all coming in together. I read through what you had. I think I don't think I have any questions about that, and I think trust me, we'll stay within our jurisdictional bounds, and I'll certainly try and make sure of that. But
yeah, and I did just to reiterate, we did at the conclusion on page 11 of our written comments have a suggested addition to the rules that essentially calls a timeout with respect to the enforceability of these rules on the Southern Ute Indian Reservation, while the PUC and the state, if they're so inclined, could engage in meaningful cooperative discussion on how to resolve the jurisdictional challenges associated with that. And so I would ask that you consider that. And I would just also say that there's some good precedent with that in complicated areas of regulation, for example, in air quality. We, as noted in those comments, we actually were able to get amendments to the Clean Air Act and form a joint commission between the state and the tribe to help facilitate these kind of these issues that have challenges given particular land status and different ownership paradigms within the reservation. And with that, I'll leave it to you and to others to continue.
All right, thank you. Like I said, and I do remember your comments really well. The last, I don't know what, if it was a rulemaking, it was a rulemaking before that you guys had in exceptions had language that was added, and so I'll definitely take a look at that. But again, I love that. It's the most fascinating law. I wish I would have done that. I always wanted to do that. But
all right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Stoffel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can. Good to see you again, sir.
Likewise. I like your haircut. Looks sharp.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, your earlier point about kind of being limited by statute prompted a couple thoughts that I wanted to share. So first, in response to Ms. Shadle's comments from RMI, she had indicated that the commission must adopt advanced leak detection and repair standards. And I wanted to remind Your Honor that what House Bill 25-1280 actually requires is for the commission to adopt rules related to pipeline safety and repair and the use of advanced leak detection technology. So I think that that's a pretty broad mandate, not so specific as to say leak detection repair standards, but that is the nature of the direction from the legislature. And the other piece that we've heard through these conversations kind of ties to both differentiating the gas system between gathering, transportation, and distribution, and really how the commission has taken a focus in this both on pipeline safety and targeting emissions. And I wanted to remind Your Honor that for local distribution companies, for the distribution systems, there is an entire set of legislative requirements, the Clean Heat Plan requirements, targeting reducing emissions from both the delivery and combustion of gas from distribution systems. And so when you're looking at kind of the appropriate level of requirements for things like repair timelines, there is already a focus on the LDC side to reduce emissions. And notably in the Clean Heat Statute, in order for emissions reductions from leak repairs to count towards the clean heat standard, they have to be cost effective. And so the legislature has already indicated that, at least for LDCs, the expectation is that repairs will be cost effective if they're going to be counted in terms of emissions reductions. So that obviously doesn't hold the same for transportation and gathering, but that there is, enacted law in Colorado already targeting emissions reductions, including the possibility of reductions from leak repairs for gas LDCs.
All right, Mr. Stoffel, thank you very much. And I just, for the record, should say, I know that you represented Black Hills, but
Atmos Energy, sir. Atmos Energy
Atmos,
here. Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Of course.
I'm sorry. I thought you'd be Black Hills.
I appreciate you reminding me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All right, Mr. Sura, what do you got for me?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I've got a PowerPoint presentation. May I share my screen?
Well, how long is your PowerPoint presentation?
I am taking your advice. I'm going to try to get it down to 5 minutes.
Okay, it's just your PowerPoint. I'm suddenly in a conference room for an hour-long presentation. But,
I assure you that I don't think that would be a good advice for me to have a 2-hour presentation.
I'm sure it'd be interesting, but
yeah,
got limits. Well, go ahead, share your screen, sir. I think you can.
Let me do that. Okay, I'm sure you can see it now. My name is Matt Sura, that is S-U-R-A, and I represent Larimer County. And I'm just going to do a quick outline of some of the main points that we raised. I'm going to try to set my timer here, make sure that I stay honest. We want to lower thresholds for the size of leaks that must be discoverable, require approval of advanced leak detection plans, leak grading criteria for grade 1 and 2 leaks should be more defined. We would also like to see faster repair times for some grade 2 leaks. We'd also like to see type R rural gathering lines included in this rulemaking, pipeline blowdown requirements included, and we agree that the effective date should remain January 1st, 2027. To go to the first one, we really support the PHMSA rules and appreciate the approach that the state is taking in trying to adopt what PHMSA worked long and hard and many years at, and really kind of came to a real consensus in some respects on those rules. And those are a great starting place. PHMSA had different thresholds that must be used for different pipelines. And they had a 10 kilogram per hour for gas transmission and gathering leak detection. We'd like to see that at 3 kilograms per hour, based on the fact that there are now available technologies that can easily reach that, and that we're looking at grade 2 leaks that need to be discovered at 5 kilograms per hour. And if 10 kilograms per hour is your threshold, that's not going to achieve that. And then also leak detection for gas distribution lines should be at 0.2 kilograms per hour. Again, this was in the PHMSA rules, and it is appropriate to adopt it in Colorado. Looking at how we would do that, we prepared some blue lines for you, and using what had already been in the definition where they had used that 10 kilograms per hour emission rate. We've reduced that to 3, and then also allowed for a separate requirement for gas distribution lines. Moving into requiring approval of advanced leak detection plans. This goes to whether or not that these regulations are going to be enforceable. We're concerned that it doesn't read that they are enforceable, that any proposed leak detection ideas or concepts that are put forward by any operator are going to be accepted. And we'd like to ensure that the director of the safety pipeline program is involved in determining whether or not they meet these minimum criteria. Leak grading. This is something where I think through the comments and then responses that we're finding some compromise and some common ground, and glad to see that. Both COGA and API EDF, and Larimer County all felt that there was a need to have more criteria, specificity in the criteria for a grade 1 leak. Clearly, a grade 1 leak that needs immediate attention as opposed to a grade 2 leak that needs to be addressed within 6 months. There's a large discrepancy there, and we would want to make sure that grade 1 leaks are clearly identified, and this is compromise language. This is also from the PHMSA regulations. Grade 2 leak, we would also like to see this language that was in the PHMSA regulations incorporated into Colorado's regulations. Again, we're looking at 6 months for a grade 2 leak as opposed to 2 years for a grade 3 leak. We want to get this right, and this is the type of specificity that would be helpful to everyone, including the industry. Faster repair times for some grade 2 leaks. Well, this is something that was also in the PHMSA draft regulations that weren't adopted, and I just wanted to break it down. And we'd like to see a grade 2 leak repaired within 30 days rather than the 6 months if it's a gas transmission pipeline in a high consequence area, or gas transmission or type A gathering line located in a class 3 or 4 that meets any of the criteria listed in what I've prepared above, in the definition of a grade 2 leak. Moving into type R rural gathering lines. Well, this is something that really needs to occur. And I recognize that you said that there may be things that are out of your ability. I thought that EDF had some really great points as to why that certainly PUC has the ability now to incorporate type R gathering lines into these regulations, and they need to. We've got 8,000 miles of rural type R gathering lines, according to the pipeline report for the state of Colorado, considerations for pipeline safety and siting. And they also identified this as a regulatory gap. That report was commissioned, required by statute, and ECMC put that report out, or had an entity work with them to come up with that report in December of last year. And this was their regulatory gap identified. They also agreed that type R pipelines should be incorporated into our rules. And moving into pipeline blowdown requirements, this is something that was also in PHMSA regulations. Black Hills stated in their comments that it is important to highlight that as operators adopt advanced leak detection technologies, a number of leaks discovered is likely to increase significantly. And they anticipated that for the first few years after the adoption, it will be incredibly difficult, requiring many man hours for operators trying to address this issue. Well, if that's going to happen, this is certainly the time to address this issue in terms of how much emissions are going to occur when these leaks are discovered and fixed. We should have some mechanism to ensure that those leaks, are minimized or mitigated as much as possible. And finally, the Pipes Act was passed in 2020. The Senate Bill 2108 was passed in 2021. The industry has known for many years, as much as 5 years, that these regulations were coming. We do not need to extend a deadline for the effective date beyond January 1st, 2027. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. And I will say real quickly, I do appreciate in your comments that you actually provided blue lines, not with their blue or red. I can't remember whatever, but with the rules and rule changes. That's extremely helpful to me doing it. So it's one thing just to get you should change this. It's quite another thing to get here's how we would change it. And I do appreciate that. So
thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay. Let's see. I'm not seeing any hands up there. Move my. Oh, now I got a hand. There we go. All right. And let's hear from public service.
Good afternoon, ALJ Garvey.
I guess I've not met you before. You are a new public service person to me.
New-ish. I've been a public service for maybe a year and a half, but pleasure to meet you.
Surveys or Service? How do I say? How do you say your last name?
Survey. Rhymes with
Survey.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. So Ryan Survey, public service, and just to spell my last name, it's Servivais. What we'd like to talk about is the timeline for this rulemaking, and just wanted to highlight that, the draft rules published 5 weeks ago. This is a significant, it's a complex rulemaking. I think folks have talked about the PHMSA pre-published rule and how much work and time went into that. Tens of thousands of comments, committees, and a lot of agency effort to make those rules work. And I think that sort of shows how difficult and complex ALDT is as a topic. We're of course aware of the November 1st statutory deadline, and thinking through what that means for this rulemaking. I noticed that we have approximately 60 folks on the line. I think maybe 24 or so sets of written or responsive comments. And, thinking through what that means here, it's I think a tight deadline to deal with those. And so wanted to focus on the specific requirements for November 1st. I know the decision mentions temporary rules. We think that might be an appropriate avenue to meet the statutory deadline there. And then lastly, just wanted to note that, again, it's complex, and that we think that it's important that we take the time to get this right, and that we think that a fast rulemaking is not great here. We think that there should be the right amount of time spent to get these rules as good as possible.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that is a problem. I mean, I mentioned the statutory issues with what we can do, but there's also statutory time issues that I have to consider as well. And I'm not sure on that one. See, I don't know right now. And I'm correct. I think there's at least 75 people on this call. I had 40 plus comments from different commentators. I mean, there's a lot. This is for rulemakings that I have done. Whatever day it was that the comments were due, I was just sitting there and my computer kept dinging every 3 minutes. It was horrifying. But that's like, oh my goodness, I got a lot to read. But I appreciate that. And I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. But that's an interesting point to bring up as well. But it's a nice pleasure to meet you, and I'm sure I'll see you around.
Thank you. And my colleague, Chris Akins, may chime in with some more targeted points as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not seeing any other hands. I will move around. There's enough people that there's more than one screen that I have. I don't see any. Not seeing any there. Oh, there we go. Okay. Patricia, and I don't think your last name is Green Latinos. I think that's who you're representing. What is so Patricia, whose last name you could please tell to me? I can go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Patricia Garcia Nelson. I am the Colorado Fossil Fuel Just Transition Advocate for Green Latinos. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really feel like it's important that somebody says it. I feel like any attempts or proposals to delay or weaken the implementation of these standards are unacceptable. And simply because of the fact that in addition to work in the PUC, Green Latinos has worked at ECMC, at AQCC. We've worked directly with the governor's office, with OEDIT. And I feel like over the years, in addition to several colleagues on this call, we've done a really amazing job of being able to not only get buy-in from the agencies, but also industries. And I feel like a lot of us on this call have worked on the rulemaking when it was at PHMSA, when it was at GPAC, and I feel like it's really unacceptable and it's really dishonest to say that these delays are needed during the stakeholder calls. We had we had the new oil and gas manager from Weld County speaking about how they would be on board for shorter timelines for any cleanups because of the experience we've had in Weld County. I was born and raised here in Weld County, and I can tell you, like, compared to how it was when I was a little kid, when I was growing up, it's completely changed. Granted, it's been a few decades, and that's going to happen. But we did a lot of working on the land, and that's what we were known for when I was growing up. And so, in addition to protecting my community, I feel like it's also protecting my heritage as someone born and raised in Northern Colorado. We worked with the land. We did not work to take from the land, other than to feed our families and people across the state. So I really encourage you to I understand, you have to look at the facts, you have to look at the statutory requirements, but I feel that because of all the things that have happened in the past, that's exactly why we're here. And we need to move forward and not try to stop anything. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Survey, but I don't think he's trying to stop anything. And what would happen is, as he mentioned, is it would temporary rules would go in place. It would not be no rules. It would not be anything, but there'd be the possibility of if more time was needed. It would not be that no rules went into place in November. Something needs to go into place, and it would be temporary rules until and have more time to look at the finalization of rules. So, and I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I will say that it's a very quick turnaround from one hearing to, because I will tell you what happens is I will issue out a recommended decision at some point. At that point, there can be exceptions found, and this all has to be done. There's time for that, and this all has to be done by November. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. But
Thank you.
yeah, no, I don't want you to think for a second that nothing's going to happen. It's going to go away or anything like that. That's certainly not the case.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, looking again for another hand. If I see a hand. And there we go. Kosian, how are you doing? Haven't seen you for a while.
Good afternoon, Judge Garvey.
Good to see you, sir.
Likewise. Emmanuel Koshin, representing Black Hills. Just wanted to touch base. I don't want to reiterate our comments. I agree that some form of delay is probably appropriate just because of the scope of what we're looking at here. And temporary rules, however we go about it, makes sense. There's a number of things to consider. This is still a new technology. We've heard through comments that this is inexpensive, that it's easily undertaken, easily put forth. It's a new technology. What we've seen is that it's quite expensive, the technology itself. Then when you're talking about the repairs that you're looking at, also quite expensive. I do appreciate Mr. Sura putting up a part of our comments. The intent of those comments was to demonstrate that as you use this new technology, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a number of false positives where the utility has to go out and investigate and determine if the leak that is pinged, that is found, that is located, if it's a leak on the utility system, if it's a leak on the customer's side of the system, or if it's something else completely. I heard reports that dead vegetation might cause pings. The other pieces that we're continuing to evaluate and look at is where the right technology would work best with the right piece of the system. Black Hills has transmission, we've got distribution, we've got different pieces of pipeline in the ground in different areas of Colorado. Some of those areas we can use mobile technology to go out and do advanced leak detection almost all times of the year. And there's some areas where it's very limited, where the time that we can actually go out and use technology and mobile technology, such as a car-mounted ALDT, is not even accessible near some of our pipelines. And so there's a lot that needs to go into it. The concern is that ultimately, if the rules are too specific, you might cut out some contractors, you might cut out some specific ALDT. And the flip side too is cost is an issue. Costs will increase. It's easy for entities to come in and say, hey, do more. But when customers come back and complain that rates have gone up, it's the commission that hears those complaints and it's the utility that hears those complaints. And so I think there is a balance that must be taken.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry I tried to make Mr. Stoffel be Black Hills instead of you.
He's working on his business development plan, so it works out great.
Okay. All right. And Patricia, you were first on that, and I'm sorry you don't have your last name, and I know it. I apologize for not recalling what
No
it is.
worries, Your Honor. We have quite a bit of people on this call. And I just like to point out that this is exactly the kind of disingenuous talking points that I was referring to. We have an operator talking about how things can get super complicated, et cetera. They don't know what the costs are going to be, et cetera. And I feel like that's just completely false, simply because when they're getting permits for the construction of all these things, they have to have the plans. They have to have they have to have safety plans that are going to say, if there's a fail, if this is happening, this is how we're going to fix it. All of these things they're required to have already. In addition, they're talking about like the new technology and how it's unpredictable, but at the same time, I'm sure several companies have gone out in public and said that they are using the best and the best available. So in public, it seems like the best available is the standard, but when we're in these hearings, it sounds like the best available is going to be a burden to the industry, which is frankly the same 2006 talking point. And additionally, I would also like to just mention that this hearing is not about rates, although this is, it's the same matter that's handled through the PUC. This case is not about rates, and so I don't feel like that should be relevant right now.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Beckett.
Let me see if it's afternoon. Good afternoon, LJ Harvey. David Beckett, it's always good to come back to the PUC. I don't do so often now that I work with Colorado Springs Utilities. But some of you have been around, remember my days there. Just wanted to point out a few things, having listened to the proceedings so far and the comments that have been made. Colorado Springs Utilities, like everybody else, believes that this is an important and a complex issue. The comment earlier about who regulates what is a real one, and it is not the clearest area of the law. Within that, this notion of advanced leak detection technology is, as I think we all can see through the comments, is a bit of a misnomer. There's screening technology and there's pinpointing technology. And what constitutes advanced is to be determined. There's definitely newer technology, and the newer technology does keep improving, but it is not yet at the pinpointing level. Colorado Springs Utilities wishes to reiterate, as it was stated in its comments, a focus on safety and on concentrations is most appropriate for achieving the goals of detecting and grading and repairing leaks in a timely manner. And as you're aware, Colorado Springs Utilities did propose specific rule language for your review and thought process regarding that. But the primary reason that I wanted to make some additional comments here has to do with the variety of important issues that have been raised in this area that touch on and relate to this rulemaking, but perhaps were not within the scope of the Commission's specifically proposed rules. It goes back to the comments made by Mr. Shipp regarding the Southern Ute. It also goes to some of the comments that we have made regarding municipal exclusions and exemptions. that we believe are appropriate under the law. There are other issues related to incorporation by reference, perhaps reporting deadlines. So as you consider the statutory need to adopt rules on a short-term basis and the comments of Mr. Survey for public service, and I believe Mr. Cochin mentioned it as well, of taking the time to do outstanding rules that touch on all the issues, that you may need more time. And in addition to your clear statutory authority to continue this hearing, as you did, for example, in 22R-048091GPS, we had many, many hearings that extended over 12 or 15 months on certain issues in that docket. The commission does also have the power to renotice the rules and bring more issues within its scope if it so believes that would improve the rules that have been noticed at this juncture. So with that, I'm open to any questions that you may have, and otherwise I will end my comments.
Well, I tell you what, you mentioned it there at the end, and I guess I'll start asking people this. So do you think there needs to be another hearing or not?
Defer to you. I think in all honesty, it's really a question of to the extent to which there are issues of clarification that you seek from having reviewed all of the comments that the commission seeks. There's clearly a lot of commonality between certain buckets of the comments. While each of us may have drafted a revision, say, to the definition of advanced leak detection technologies, in our own offices, they may have common characteristics. Which one is the best? I don't know. So I think there are some issues out there that maybe warrant additional hearings beyond this, but I'm not sure what they would be.
All right, fair enough. I appreciate the comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, Mr. Davidson, how are you doing, sir? Where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Judge Garvey. It's good to see you. And on behalf of Colorado Natural Gas, I just wanted to chime in with respect to some of the comments that have been made during today's hearing. Colorado Natural Gas, as you probably know, is the smallest of the LDCs in the state, but we do take our responsibilities with respect to leak detection and repair very seriously. In fact, CNG implemented a system called Picaro, which we referenced in our comments, in order to gain experience in advanced leak detection technology. And we've been piloting that program for some time, even before these rules were proposed. So to just demonstrate the seriousness with which CNG takes these issues, I just wanted to highlight that aspect of the company's efforts in order to address any leak issues that may occur on the system. The other thought that I just wanted to echo, I guess, is in no way, at least is Colorado Natural Gas, nor do I think the other LDCs trying to delay this process. We would really prefer to have certainty with respect to what the rules are and when they're implemented and what they require the LDCs to do. So to the extent that we need temporary rules to get where we need to go in order to accommodate the statutory deadline, that sounds like it might be a viable option, but in no way, at least on behalf of my client, are we seeking to delay the implementation of these rules. Rather, we'd like certainty. And we offered specific clarification in our comments about some of the definitions. For instance, the definition of a leak. As Mr. Koshin mentioned, it may not be on the utility system when a leak is identified somewhere out in the territory serviced by my client. And so there's more follow-up that has to happen once there's an initial determination that something is leaking. And so I think to the earlier comments that have been made, it's not that precise to identify where the leak is at the first pass. It may take more travel past that leak. It may take someone in person going there to determine whether it's a leak on our system or something else on the customer side of the meter even. So just wanted to chime in and with respect to how the LDCs are seeking to address these rules and make sure that it's clear that at least on behalf of CNG, we encourage these rules to move forward expeditiously and be in place with certainty that we can then implement and rely upon in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. I appreciate that. Let's see. I tell you what, I don't see a hand up. What I think I might do now is take a little break, give my court reporter a few minutes, and people can think whether they have anything more. And I can talk to my advisor in this case. And so why don't we take a break until, we'll say 1 o'clock, and we'll see if there's any comments that come up at that point, any latecomers at that point, and then we'll see. So we'll be in recess until 1 o'clock. Thanks. All right, Tracy, are you somewhere there?
I am.
Okay, there you are. All right, we'll go back on the record here with proceeding number 25R-0280GPS. And I don't know if anyone has joined us, but I would look for any other hands that might have come up, or people that might have rethought what they were thinking, would like to talk. Not seeing any hands up. Oh, now I do. All right, Ms. Murphy, you may go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, Your Honor. This is Erin Murphy with Environmental Defense Fund. My colleague Nini Gu spoke earlier, and I think just listening to the discussion, would love to maybe add a couple more perspectives, building on what was in our written comments. Just three brief points I'll share. One, I think, would love to chat a little more about the technology standard and how important it is that there is a really clear standard that captures the technologies that are available, that are on the market, that are in use by operators. And we appreciated some of the reply comments from some industry folks as well, seeing consensus with what we had recommended, which is the idea of a bifurcated technology standard, recognizing just the differences in infrastructure between distribution, utility pipeline systems versus, the further upstream gathering and transmission pipelines. And so having that sort of distinguished standard for those two types of pipelines is really valuable, we think. And we laid out more detail in our written comments, but also want to emphasize, even if an individual operator, that filed comments or is, contributing to the record hasn't used one of these technologies yet, these technologies are very much commercially available. They're in use around the country by operators. Other states have required the use of these advanced technologies already. So this is certainly not something that's sort of brand new on the scene, right? This is technology that's out there on the market with technology providers that have been growing, including in Colorado. So we really do think there's a lot of good information, right, about the ability of operators to pick up and utilize these advanced technologies. The second point we wanted to flag,
I'm gonna, before you get yelled at by my court reporter, I'm gonna tell you to slow down just a wee bit, okay?
Sure thing. Thanks.
Okay.
The second point I wanted to just briefly speak to, which I don't know if there's been a ton of discussion in the hearing today, but there's quite a bit of discussion in the written comments around the applicability of these standards to gas gathering pipelines, which are broken up in the PHMSA standards, categorized as type A, B, C, and R gathering pipelines. We suggested in our written comments that the commission has clear authority to make leak detection and repair standards applicable to all gas gathering lines, and that the publicly available information shows that they should, because we know that this infrastructure poses a safety risk, including in more rural areas, and releases methane and other air pollutants that are damaging to the climate and human health. I think there's so much discussion in the written comments that I thought one thing that might be helpful to point out is it feels like there's maybe two buckets of debate. One around, does the commission have the authority and the ability to set standards for type R gathering pipelines? I think, what we've set out in our written comments is we think it's very clear that the commission does have that authority. And I don't think there's a ton of sort of disagreement on that question. It seems like more of the disagreement is on whether the commission should set standards applicable to those pipelines. And then maybe the second bucket of debate is really, is this proceeding already structured in such a way that the commission could choose to extend what was in the NOPR to also apply to type R. And from our perspective, there was conversation way back in the March stakeholder meeting that was first convened by commission staff. And since then, that this is a broad NOPR, there's, a sort of open discussion around what the structure of the standards should be and what they apply to, that we do think it, is entirely within the scope of this proceeding, and that parties have had the opportunity to comment on that applicability to type R. And then just a third point that I want to make is hearing discussion in the hearing today around, the timing. And we do recognize that it's a tight timeline that was set by the legislature, and appreciate Judge Garvey and the commission, therefore giving us all a tight timeline for filing comments in this proceeding. We do think it's really important to maintain a sense of urgency in this proceeding as the legislature recommended. And I think, there's been references, and the NOPR discusses the federal rulemaking at the PHMSA level. And I think looking at the timeline of that proceeding, it shows what we hope Colorado can learn from and improve on, because Congress gave PHMSA a very clear deadline to complete its rulemaking. It seemed like no stakeholders thought that deadline would be met. And here we are in 2025 when we were supposed to have nationwide rules in 2021. So, recognize that it is a challenging timeline, but also just, think that urgency is valuable, and there's, a need for these standards. Thanks.
And first up, don't thank me for a short timeline. There are many people who are in this rulemaking who can tell you that I'm not a big fan of short timelines. If I had to do it, it'd be a much longer timeline. But
yeah, we were hustling to get you those comments. So
yeah, no. That's I've been assigned to the case for less than a month, so I was very surprised how quickly the turnaround on it. So. But thank you very much. I do appreciate that, and appreciate basically coming back on comments that you've heard and clarifying that. All right, Ms. Larson.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. My name is Mimi Larson. I'm appearing on behalf of the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. And I just wanted to take a moment to reiterate the comments that KOGA has submitted, specifically to the point with respect to regulation of the type R pipelines. I know you've heard from EDF, you've also heard from counsel to Larimer County that, and others, public commenters, who assert that there is the opportunity here through this rulemaking to regulate type R pipelines. As KOGA detailed in its response comments, we respectfully disagree with that. We don't believe that the NOPR, in fact, would allow for the regulation of type R pipelines in this rulemaking. Specifically, the NOPR limits the federal regulations, the type of pipelines that it's going to be considering safety regulations for, to be those that are in Part 192. The type R pipelines are covered under Part 191. And additionally, the bill that has called for this legislation, or sorry, this rulemaking, HB 25R-0280, also did not cover that area to be addressed in this rulemaking, the regulation of type R pipelines. So with that, I would just like to, again, state for the record that KOGA disagrees that this is the forum for the regulation of those pipelines.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I got that pretty clear from competing sides there, that there is especially on the type R, that there is a disagreement on whether this rulemaking is the place, or whether the PUC in fact is the place for any regulation on these type Rs. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Akins. Akins?
You got it. Thank you. It's Akins. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, thank you. Still getting used to the headset here. Thank you. My name is Christopher Akins. I am speaking on behalf of Public Service Company of Colorado. Thank you also again for taking the opportunity to listen to our comments here. I did just want to touch briefly on some of the equipment logistics. I know it's been brought up several times, and there's been various commentary about how easy or not easy it would be when talking about this, advanced leak detection equipment. I think it's important to remember that, we can't diminish the impact and the implications of what new technology would entail for operators. And I think PHMSA even understood this. They had a 3-year effective date for a lot of those provisions in the LDAR rulemaking. So even from their standpoint, they knew implementation was going to be time consuming, and it was going to be very involved for operators. Particularly, some of this equipment may be used, by, ourselves as individual operators or our peer companies, but there's still a lot of new technology out there. And particularly, some of the advanced mobile leak detection may be a little bit more understood, but some of the other technologies like handheld quantification is very new. There isn't a lot of experience out there, and it is very expensive. So not only just having to validate these tools, go through processes to determine whether or not they're actually going to do what they say they're going to do. So there's kind of the analysis side of it, and the testing side of it. But then there's also just the resources that come along with making sure that our folks know how to use those tools, they're trained appropriately, and that they're able to go out and deploy these tools successfully. So for that reason, there is just a lot of concerns that we have with rushing too soon to try and get these tools quickly deployed out there. It could result in a lot of misapplication of resources or technologies going into the wrong direction for the sake of rushing the timing on it. So I just wanted to highlight that. Again, there's just a lot of vendors out there and a lot of different applications. So again, continuing to highlight that even though it is in use, PHMSA acknowledged this. They had effective dates to help clarify that point as well. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. Do we have any other commenters? We'll check my other screens. I think you go to the front, but don't see any there. And someone's entering, so I'll wait and see if they want to make a comment. More people entering. Let's see if we have any more. And I'll wait for 5 minutes. Hey, Tracy, take us off the record for a minute. While we're waiting to see if anyone else shows up, I must say, greatest name I've seen in a long time, Skylar Hamilton. I don't know who you represent, but being a fan of American history, great name. Go back on the record, Tracy. I'll explain that later. All right. I'm not seeing anyone here. And if we don't have any more comments, what I think I'm going to do then is check one more time. Last call for anyone who would like to make a comment. Let's have a look around. No. Okay. During the break there, I talked over with my advisor, and we're trying to figure out what we have here, what we could do. And I think we're going to do, I don't think that another hearing is probably necessary. I don't know that it's going to add anything more. I think the positions are pretty entrenched from what I can tell. And we've got that. We've got a lot of comments to work with too. It's not quite often in rulemakings I don't have a lot of comments, and I don't have a lot to work with. Here I do. So I believe I'm going to end this hearing, and a recommended decision will come out. I will allow, if based upon this hearing, if folks want to file another comment, they can. And we'll say for about the next 10 days till the 15th, which I should probably look and see if that's on the weekend. But, let me see. Okay, yeah, that would be Friday. So that'd be a week from this Friday. If additional comments want to be filed, they can file them then. But I will close this hearing then. And I do appreciate everyone who appeared today and talked today. I personally, for me, it means a lot when people come and do this, take the time out to do this. It's very helpful to the commission, very helpful to me, especially on the tight timeline that we have here today. So thank you very much. And last call, last chance. Nothing. We'll be in adjournment. Thank you very much. Off the record, Schuyler Hamilton, as we all know, Alexander Hamilton married into the Schuyler family. So that is why that's an interesting name to me.
Nice.
His wife's name, who was the last name was Schuyler, and so that is the first name. Schuyler is the first name of his wife, and of course Alexander Hamilton. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.